This is working out very well. These leaves are all ones just from about a week ago had been harvested green like this, and I had taken each one, as you may have seen in my other videos, and I kind of meticulously got pretty good at doing it, at shaving off this bottom vein. Try to carefully not cut into the leaf, but just get that vein off is what I was doing. And then once I got those off, I took a cylindrical shaped thing, like, anything cylindrical, and smashed that vein. And then I smashed these other veins on the sides of the main vein, like that, so that they would evaporate out of the center evenly as all the rest of this leaf is drying out. Because the ones that I did not do that to, there was one leaf here that I did not do that to. This one still has this main vein. And if you look at the difference between how this leaf is drying out and how these others are drying out, these dried out in the middle. This one with that main vein, it keeps leaching that water out through these veins, keeping that middle wet for a long time. And you can see there's a tiny bit of mold right on the main vein, where the extra moisture was as this thing was drying out. And now that that's actually getting dry on those centers, it's not going to be a problem. It's not going to continue to be molding noticeably once these go into the jar. So these were cut and trimmed and smashed only a week ago, and then layered between their paper towels, so I could just stack them up like this. I just layered them up like that and put them in their little pink drying box for the week. And I did pull them out once or twice, for like an hour or two, and laid them out, because the paper towels would absorb some moisture and you could feel that. And then they would dry out kind of really quick. I'd stack them back up and put them back in their box. Well, today I'm pulling them out and I'm seeing that these things are crispy enough in some of the parts of the leaf, a little bit of moisture left in the others. So these are ready to go into their jars, where they're going to be like this in their jars, with some green on them still, but still moisture. And closed in the jar, the moisture seeps from the greener places into the browner places, kind of evenly humidifies it all, where they've continued to age in here. And a lot of these are getting ready to take to the trimmer. So anyway, I'm looking at those ones that have been in there for a week, and I'm seeing that now some of them, I'll pull up and I can still feel moisture on the whole thing, and I'll put those back into their box. But this one, a lot of dry, a little bit of wet, ready to go into the drying jar. And that one is ready to go. That one, yeah. I don't know if you can hear that. They get the dry sound to them. This one still has a little moisture left on the edges, but dry in the middle. That'll all even out in the jars. When I put them in the jars, I'll make sure that they go in there real kind of loosely stacked, not flat against each other, but as much as I can have them be just kind of stacked loosely in those jars, so that they don't get stuck together, wet against wet, where it might mold. That one's going to go back into the drying box, and that guy's ready for the boxes. I mean the jars, I'm mistaken. This one with the vein, it's going to have to go back into the drying box, and that's fine. It's just going to take longer. These ones, though, with where I cut the veins, you can see it dried out in the middle of the plant, and a little moisture actually on the edges, which is opposite of the way it usually turns out if I didn't slice and smash those veins. So there's a nice big one there that's definitely ready for the drying jars. And then we got this guy that that's still pretty wet. I'll go ahead and stack that one up again to go into the drying box. Let's check these others real quick. This guy, I bet that'll dry out okay. I might do one more day with that one in the paper towels in the box before it goes into the jars. That one is definitely green and wet. So now this is going to go back into the drying box. This one you can see is dried out in the middle, which is that really was the object of slicing and smashing, was to get the middles to dry out at the same time the rest of this is drying out. And it is ready for the box. And I'm catching it, some of this green areas some green areas on some of these were actually feeling a little dry, but still green. And we always want to catch that, keep that green stuff moist, because if it dries out completely green, it will stop that fermenting process that breaks down the sugars. This one's still kind of wet. It's going to go just kind of all floppy and wet. It's going to go back into the drying box. That guy there is ready for the jars. Yeah, let's check this. That can go. Yeah, that'll be good in the jars. This one is still kind of feels pretty wet all the way around. Not wet, but it's not making that much of that crispy sound. This one is all floppy. It'll go into the box to dry some more. And that guy, a little bit borderline, a little wet. Now this one here, it's got green, but it's very dry in the middle. And I think you just feel that there's not much moisture in that green, and I don't want it to dry green, so it's going to go into the jar. And that's it. That's all of them. And so I'll get out my handy dandy little heat box. And these ones that are layered between their paper towels go in there. We'll let that humidity in that box just naturally saturate again to get those back to a moisture level. This green fresh one, I had a few green fresh ones that I had cut the other day because I was using the juice out of here to treat my knife handle. It ended up being a really good sealant on my knife handle. So those green ones, they're just going to lay out. I'm just going to leave them laying out for a day, let all the air in the room hit them and dry them out a little bit before I stick them between their paper towels and into the box. And these guys, I guess we'll use this jar today. Get these like candy jars and things at the Goodwill store. But we'll just kind of ease those guys down into there a little bit, just kind of bunched up a little bit, very loosely, as much loosely as we can. And well, this guy's probably in about a week or two, all that color be evened out into the brown, and they'll be ready to kind of tickle out and flatten out again and press down to get ready to take to the where it is. I guess I'll just show you again. We'll be taking them to this paper chopper, and we'll be slicing those into ribbons and then turning the ribbons sideways and chopping them into those little squares. And I can keep them in those jars even a little moist, if they're not completely done, after they're chopped, they'll still continue to age in that jar, cut into little squares. I'll just pack them in there, just pack them down in there, and then take them to the bullet blender. Once they've all, dried out a little bit more, fermented a little bit more in the jar, then even after it's been in the bullet blender, And we're down to that fine cut. Like these ones, this is this year's crop 2024 that yesterday I had put into the bullet blender to come up with that. Now there's still a little bit of that moisture in there and a little bit of that tiny bit of even some green in there, but I just go ahead and pack it down a little bit, create that environment, you know, that it's almost like composting, super slow. But those will continue to age in there, you know. And I've got 2023's tobacco still up there, you know, a couple jars packed, I mean, stuffed full that, you know, I'll still be smoking on from last year while these 2024 jars begin their aging process. So anyway, I just wanted to show you how that's turning out with the cut vein things. I'm declaring a victory. The next time is going to be, though, instead of slicing those veins off in that tedious process, I'm just going to take those leaves, lay them down, and just smash them out. Leave that vein on there and see if just smashing that and releasing those juices and busting up all those cells will do the same thing that I've been doing here, but without doing that slicing business, you know, just rolling them out, crushing all the veins, getting them into their paper towels and into the box. So I hope that's you know, informative and helpful for anybody that's getting interested in growing in a very small space, because, you know, Alio's world here is, you know, is basically a small space living in collaboration with some others who share the same values that I do. And so we're a bunch of preppers, and like I always say, you know, money, tobacco is money. You know, tobacco has always been money, always will be money. And I love being able to grow it. I've got several million seeds too. If anybody's interested in growing but would like a little help with getting started with that too, I'm sort of a master composter gardener and be happy to help anybody that I could get started with growing their tobacco or whatever you need to grow. It's all good.